Deep in the forests of Appalachia, a friendly earthworm makes its way to who knows where, when suddenly a dark form approaches. If it had eyes, the earthworm would see a large, furry creature coming toward it, pounding the earth with its nose. At the end of its snout sits a wriggling mass of writhing tentacles, as though the creature had abducted the earthworm's brethren and assimilated them into his nostrils. The worm desperately tries to flop away, but its face/butt accidentally brushes up against the amalgamation of pink tendrils. In an instant, your already dark world is consumed by more darkness. I shouldn't have picked a worm. Should have gone with crickets. Everybody likes crickets.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy, your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I am Carlos.
And today we're talking about a creature that could be a schnoz seismologist. But more on that later. So today we're talking about, in this post-Thanksgiving episode...
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy digesting Thanksgivings.
Digesting and shopping.
Today we're talking about a small furry creature, better known as the star-nosed mole.
Yeah, I chose this one because it disturbed me the most.
Same, actually. We'll get to that in the description.
You didn't choose it. I chose it. Don't take this from me. Anyway, the star-nosed mole. You've probably seen it and erased that memory from your brain. So let's talk about it. First of all, just want to put some colloquialisms in here, just to throw around, such as the stellar smeller, whatever, starry fright.
Okay, I like that.
And the hamster ball of Cthulhu.
Ah, I got it.
Get it?
It took me a bit, but I got
like
it.
The call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, are you ready to hear where it goes in the animal kingdom?
It goes in my pocket.
Yeah.
It's not cute enough to go in my pocket.
It's a big enough pocket.
I'd much rather have an Alaskan collared pika in my pocket.
Yeah, same. Although they both live in like small, dank areas, so
very dank.
Yeah, pocket's fine. Although you'd have to.
I think the mole would fare better in my pocket than the pika.
It's probably a little warm for them.
For the pika? Yeah, they don't do well in hot temperatures.
Yeah. But let's find out where they live. Not in your pants, but in the animal kingdom. They're in the kingdom which you all know and love and are in, Animalia.
Yes. I was hoping for that one. They're
in the phylum Chordata because they deserve it.
Because for no reason, just threw it in there.
They're in the class Mammalia, which you're also in. Congratulations.
Unless you're a bird who's listening to this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. I guess a bird would not necessarily understand what I'm saying, but it could be hearing this.
Yeah, it's definitely could be hearing, but not listening.
Yeah, no. It's in the order...
It's definitely could be hearing. That's what I said. That's English. Enjoy it. Have it. Love it.
It's in the order Eulyptatifla.
Nice. Well done.
I'm not going to say that quickly.
Eulypotifla.
Eulypotifla? Yeah, that's fine. I don't like that word.
Me neither. It's not very good. It's not a good word.
Fla. No. It ain't.
PHLA at the end of that one.
It's not good.
TYPHLA. Look, so Tifla.
Typhla.
Like typhoid.
Yeah, no. I was going to do it again, but I'm done with it.
Nope, you're that.
Family. Talpidae.
That one's easy.
Yeah, that's not so bad. Subfamily, if you're into that sort of thing. Scalopinae. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm into it yet.
Scalopinae?
I think subfamilies are an acquired taste.
What about tribes?
Oh, no. That's for the diehard fans.
Condylicerae. I'm just kidding.
I almost believed you
but
for
a second. But it is Condylurinae. Condylurinae. Yeah. Genus, Condylura, and species, Cristata.
Condylura cristata.
Yep. That's where it lives in the animal kingdom. But what does it look like? We've said it's disturbing. Let's find out why. Google it.
Not in the car.
Not in the car. In case you're driving, the star-nosed mole is a small mammal with brown fur or gray fur, if it's in season, a round body, and large front paws with long claws. Disproportionately large. Quite large indeed.
It's a mole. It's got a dick.
Yeah. You dig? If the mole is listening, then it would say yes. Most notably, it has a pink, fleshy, hideous nose with sea anemone-esque tendrils coming off of it.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I thought its nose was its whole face.
Me too.
Because its like dark eyes are blended with its fur. So I thought it just had like this tiny little face on this like roundish body and huge hands. So I thought it was a terrible monster.
I also thought it had no eyes.
It could
after that. So it's first like, oh, that's its whole face, and then wait, that's not its whole face. But it doesn't have any eyes. It's this like eyeless, horrible worm monster.
It might as well.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that because it can't see very well.
But now you know pretty much what it looks like. But how big is it?
Oh, we're here already?
We are here already. I like to get it in early.
I just got comfortable.
That brings us to the listeners' favorite part of the show, as introduced by members of the listening community. If you want to submit your own introduction to this segment, just say, speak, or scream, or chitter.
Chitter, yeah. We've established that chittering is an acceptable form of communication.
Uh-huh. The words measure up right into your phone's like memo thing or your phone's recording app, and just send it right on over.
Mm-hmm.
Today's measure up segment is brought to you by Dulcie. Without further ado, the listener's favorite segment of the show. 3, 2, 1.
Measure up. Very nice.
And here we are, on the other side of that marvelous introduction.
That was great. I loved it.
Getting right into it, let's talk about length. They are about 4.6 inches, these moles. How many moles?
You need to get that checked.
Star-nosed.
Is it changing size?
Is it raised?
Does it have well-defined borders?
Is it red on the outside? I don't know if that's one of them.
This is one of the genres of mole you can have.
Bad one. How many star-nosed moles go into the length of a standard oblong city block in Manhattan?
What's the difference between an oblong and
I'm glad you asked.
Standard city
Here's
block?
the hint. A city block can be a square or an oblong, which is a rectangle. In Minneapolis, an average oblong block is 330 feet or 100 meters
Okay.
in length.
I'm just going to assume that Minneapolis and New York did a big high five on their oblong city blocks and decided to have the same exact measurements.
Mm-hmm.
You said 300 and how many feet?
30.
30 feet.
I think we both know the fact that I put it as the hint means it's wildly different.
No, I'm going to call your bluff. So how many inches was this thing again?
4.6.
4.6 inches. 850, 875.
Very wrong. The average length of an oblong city block in Manhattan is 900 feet.
Of course it is.
274 meters.
They always have to go so extra with everything.
Everything is big in New York.
That's why they write songs about New York and not Minneapolis.
That's why they call it the Big Apple, because of their oblong city blocks. The answer is 2,348 moles.
Okay. All right, whatever. All right, you got me.
All right. Let's move on to something we've never talked about before. Eating speed.
What?
Considered the fastest eating mammal, moles of the star-nosed variety can identify and consume food in 227 milliseconds on average.
Oh, I got 120 milliseconds on that.
Oh, that's the high end.
Oh, that's the record?
Yes, I said on average. How many things could a star-nosed mole eat in the time it takes Usain Bolt to run 100 meters? The fastest man on Earth.
Whose name is just so appropriate.
Yeah. And completely his given name, his birth name.
No, he didn't. He's not it's not like Ice Cube.
No, Ice Cube's his real name.
Iceberg Cubicle. This is his full name. 100 yards.
100 meters.
100 meters. All right, fine. That's basically the same thing. He runs at what? 35 miles an hour, I think, in a dead sprint. Like I'm going to translate that into meters.
I think you're wrong anyway.
I don't think I'm wrong. I think I'm pretty close. He runs pretty fast. While you look that up. Because I remember looking this up. Who doesn't look up how fast can the fastest man alive run? I think
You're
I remember.
wrong.
Am I that really wrong? It's not,
yeah.
It's not even close to 35?
No. Maybe in a shorter sprint.
I guess 100 meters is a lot longer than I thought.
But 100 meter dash is like the gold standard of sprints.
Is it? Whatever. I'll figure this out.
It's one length of the track.
Yeah, so he can be at his fastest the whole time.
Sure.
Because it's not that long.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm going to say it takes him 15 seconds.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
Don't laugh at me.
Okay.
Now I'm all self-conscious. Sure. Fine, whatever. I'm not winning any Olympic medals for this. All right, 15 seconds. 220 milliseconds, you said?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just a millisecond. So one thing I do like about the metric system is I could figure this out with multiples of 10. So what? There's about 5. It can eat 5 things per second in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So 75. It can eat 75 things in the time it takes Usain Bolt to run 100 meters.
So you thought Usain Bolt was way faster when you said his MPH, which in fact is 28 miles per hour, and you thought he was way slower when you said his seconds, which is 9.69.
Oh, I wasn't about to translate miles per hour into meters.
The answer is 42 and a half things.
42 and a half things?
Yeah.
I wonder if I would have gotten the same. I think my math was on point.
Yeah.
Whatever, let's move past this dark time in our lives.
All right, so that's the end of that. Let's move on to Fast Facts, or in other words, a section of the podcast I'm calling Where Is It and What It Do?
Are we doing this every time?
No, just this time. And maybe if I ever.
Although it does apply to almost all animals.
Yeah.
It's not like the know the difference.
Yeah, well, sometimes there's a lot of nebulous fast facts. This time it's about pretty much where it lives and what it do.
Okay. Tell us what it do.
What it does is another way to say that in English. So the Hollywood Walk of Face can be found in...
What?
Because it's got a star nose.
Oh, my gosh.
It can be found in northeastern North America, as far north as Canada, just below the Arctic Circle, and down into Appalachia, as the introduction spake to you.
We're good at English today.
It prefers wet lowlands with soft soil and plenty of tasty insects, worms, mollusks, amphibians, and fish to feast upon.
Fancy feast.
Yeah, pretty much. Not really. They're gross and nasty invertebrates. It focuses on constantly eating smaller prey in large quantities rather than eating larger prey in smaller quantities.
It's a good tactic.
Though they prefer areas near water, they can be found in dry meadows as well. It spends a lot of its time underground digging for ground grub, but it's also an adept swimmer, and it's pretty good at finding food underwater, despite being almost completely blind. With a tactic we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Moles have 1 litter of pups a year in late spring.
Oh, they're pups.
Yeah, I looked it up. They're pups.
That's almost cute.
But they may have a second litter if their first one wasn't cool enough, in that they died.
Oh, okay.
Babies are born hairless, blind, deaf, and anosmic, which is the equivalent word for someone who can't smell.
Anosmic?
Yeah. Anosmia is you can't smell. If you have anosmia, you can't smell.
Huh.
When you get stopped up, you're anosmic, I think.
Temporarily anosmic.
Though their lack of senses aren't because, it's not true anosmia. It's because their orifices are sealed before opening 14 days after they are born.
Gross.
So they're sealed up with who knows what. And they open up later.
Birth jellies.
Newborn pups are 1.5 grams and about 2 inches long, which makes them tasty snacks for the mole's main predators, which are foxes, weasels, minks, badgers, skunks, cats, and every bird of prey in the Northeast.
Yeah, I can imagine these guys don't do well outside of their burrows.
No, it stinks to be both small and delicious.
And pink.
But that's
and blind.
Yeah, not good. You can't feel the air when there's a bird of prey coming at you.
You can.
I guess you can feel it in the
Feel some
calling
you
in the air.
Feel some flutters
Tonight. Oh Lord. That's the end of the fast facts. Now take it away with the major fact.
So this is where the fact gets major.
No, great.
So let's talk about its snoot, because it's got an ugly snoot, but a good one.
Uh-huh. An astute snoot.
Yeah, very astute snoot. This Lovecraftian lemming has a nose with 22 pink fleshy people fingers attached to it that we're going to call rays, because that's what the scientific community calls it, rays, which is cool, I guess, but kind of generic. I like people fingers. So these things don't smell. There are no olfactory sensors on this thing. It does have a nose, and it can smell things, but these fleshy finger things are not the nose.
They're not your normal nosely things.
No.
They don't serve your normal nosely functions.
Your nosely needs.
Yes.
Your everyday nosely needs. And they also can't grab anything. You always, when you look at it, you're like, if I were to put my finger on that, it would grab my hand and then just inject me with eggs or something like that. It looks so horrifying.
It does. It looks like a face hugger from Alien.
It sure does. It sure does. Which is why I said that. But no, it doesn't have any muscles in it. It's actually controlled by tendons that are attached to the muscles in the skull, which make it so that they kind of oscillate.
Gross.
Constantly.
Nasty. Filth.
And wriggle and writhe.
Good.
So instead of having olfactory sensors, they have 25, well, all of them together, have 25,000 little bumps on them called Eimer's organs.
Okay.
Probably discovered by some megalomaniac named Eimer. But each one has 100,000 nerves. So this is a very touchy nose. And almost all moles have Eimer's organs on them somewhere, but not as many as the star-nosed mole over here. The star is 6 times more sensitive than the human hand. So the human hand altogether has 17,000 nerve receptors. Each ray has a different number of nerves per Eimer organ, so they're specialized. It's not like all 22 are the same thing. By hitting one, it knows which one you hit, and it translates to a different response from the mole. And they correspond to a different area of the brain. So you have, I have a diagram here if you want to look at it. It's very asymmetrical because I was overzealous in the first 11 on the right side, and then kind of botched it on the other 11 on the left side.
Okay.
It is supposed to be symmetrical.
And you were, I guess, going to color it in and then lost your...
No. I colored in the two...
those are
the
important.
two lower ones, the 11th rays. So just imagine, well, yeah, the face hugger from Alien, just like this anemone that's relatively symmetrical. And then down at the bottom, there are two, and they're both the 11th rays on one on each side, and these are special ones. It's kind of like they function as where your focus is. So most animals have a primary sense. Humans have our vision, like this is what we rely on the most to get information. Like bats have their hearing. These guys have touch. It's a tactile bias.
Interesting.
And it's a little more than a feeling. So what they'll do is their little oscillating little finger thingies are constantly moving around, and they're patting the ground with it and just exploring their tunnel. And when it hits something, when one of the fringe rays hits something, then it'll immediately flip its head towards the thing and touch it with its 11th tentacles.
Gross.
And so that's like if you saw something out of your peripheral vision and then you snapped your eyes to it to focus on it.
Okay.
So those 11th ones are like the focus of your eyes, and then the rest are like peripheral vision. And they move around in the same way. Its head moves around in the same way that your eyes do. So rather than a smooth motion, they snap from place to place. So like, try this if you're at a stoplight. Just try to move your eyes smoothly without having them jump. It's kind of tough. Your eyes naturally jump from place to place.
It's easier if you're following something rather than...
Even so, your eyes jump from thing to thing. Like they don't... It's not like a smooth, like camera action. It's more like lights camera action. So because of this instant reflex, it can identify that something that it's touched as food in 8 milliseconds despite not being able to see it. So it's patting the ground with its nose and probably touching sticks and clumps of dirt and what have you, roots. And then as soon as it touches a worm or a cricket or whatever it's trying to eat, it identifies it in 8 milliseconds. And then, like we said, it takes about 220 milliseconds for it to eat it.
Yeah, that actually includes like identifying it.
Yeah, like touching it, snapping its head to touch it with the 11th rays, focus on it essentially, and identifying it as food, and then putting it in its mouth and consuming it. 220 milliseconds.
Yeah,
like 1/5 of a second. That's crazy. So imagine that like it's like Daredevil, and it is creating a picture of the world around it through just touch. So because it has the most sensitive tactile organ in the animal kingdom, they theorize, when I say they, I mean the echo chamber that is the internet, theorizes that these guys can detect seismic waves. Now, I read that. I tried to follow the links. I tried to do some extra research, and all I saw were passing comments that say, "We believe that they can detect seismic waves," and then just that was it. The rest of it was about how cool it is, how cool the touch is, good touch, and then nothing about the seismic waves. So I was like, "What's the deal there?" So you want to break in and tell me more about seismic waves?
So I found it on Discovery.com, Discovery Channel, and then also UNC Charlotte Urban Institute, which I assume is a university.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah. They just also in a passing comment say they can detect seismic rays. Waves. Got it. I wrote down waves. I was like, did you say rays?
I've been saying rays a lot, but it's definitely
okay. With their rays, they detect seismic waves.
Yes. It's all about the rays anatomy.
So it's theorized that
You're slow on the draw today.
It's theorized that the nose can detect seismic rays, and if we can make instruments that are as good at doing that as the nose of a mole, then we could potentially make seismic instruments that can get the jump on earthquakes. So we'll know them before they're destroying things.
So it's not that, we know this thing can detect seismic waves. It's more like, this is some good tactile stuff, and we could probably reverse engineer it to help us.
Well, we think that it can also do that.
But like,
we're not about to like treat with it and say, tell us, when is the next earthquake?
Or like, if there were, I guess
we're too proud for that.
You can't really simulate seismic waves in like a lab environment.
Sure you can. You shake the table.
That's not seismic. Maybe to it.
Do a seismic toss on a small mole.
Pokemon move.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what I got.
So then the last thing is you mentioned swimming underwater and being able to find and identify and eat food while underwater despite being virtually blind. Here's its tactic. It can smell underwater. Which is pretty crazy. I'm just going to leave it at that. Just kidding. What it does is it swims along the bottom and it blows out a bubble through its horrifying nose.
Yeah.
And this big bubble will like envelop what its nose is in front of, and then it'll suck the bubble back in, and whatever particles it picked up, it'll identify those particles, and then if it finds a fish, mollusk, worm that's down there at the bottom, it'll eat it. So, I saw a video of it doing that, and it actually found an earthworm at the bottom of this lake. So I was like, I didn't know earthworms could be down there.
Sure.
But yeah, it's pretty good swimmers, and it's kind of just like sometimes the bubble gets away from it. So I'd be like, did you accidentally suck in some water that time? Because it's supposed to, like, the bubble is not supposed to leave, like, form by itself. It's supposed to just kind of expand out like bubble gum, and then be sucked back in with whatever information it gathered.
I thought it could also detect vibrations that touch the bubble.
Probably. I didn't read that, though.
Yeah.
But that's all I got.
Well, that brings us to a new segment.
Oh, no.
Which I'm calling After the Fact.
How many new segments are you introducing this episode?
There's only 6 more. I'm just kidding.
two segments in this episode. I don't think my heart can handle this kind of change.
After the Fact is the name of this segment. And so the mole has a specific molecule in its nose that are really good at turning touch signals into electrical signals in the brain. And turns out we also have this molecule. So if we can learn to better understand what this molecule does, then it could potentially lead to better treatments for pain in humans, according to that UNC Charlotte Urban Institute article I read.
Nice.
And that concludes this segment of After the Fact.
So what do you think is uglier, this guy or the naked mole rat?
Naked mole rat. Because wispy hair always does it to me. And what it is give me the heebie-jeebies.
That gives you the heebie-jeebies more than 22, like, muscleless, fleshy, writhing appendages?
Yes, because...
that are pink?
Because this whole thing is a basically muscleless, writhing appendage. And the naked mole rat.
No, but it has...
a wrinkly sack is what this is.
But, like, at least it has an ugly face, but I know what its face is. I can immediately identify it as, like, a little rodent thing. But this guy, it's like, you're not sure what's happening. All you know is that it's nefarious.
The only thing scarier than the unknown is a distortion of the familiar.
Yeah, and so by taking 7 people's hands and like fusing them together and putting them on the face of a giant blind, it's not, it would be giant to an earthworm, but burrowing creature, it's just awful.
So you get like these little fleshy tendrils tickling you, and you turn around, you're getting eaten.
Yeah.
Eaten.
Well, you don't even have time to think about it.
No.
This has been 220 milliseconds. The shorter version of 60 minutes. This has been 220 milliseconds.
And this has been Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
For you out there in Podcastia, spread your fleshy tendrils, keep your nose to the ground, and get yourself some grub, like the star-nosed mole in Life, Death, and Taxonomy. Hey everyone, Life, Death, and Taxonomy here with a message to our fellow Americans. We're here to tell you that if you live in the US of A, then the Lovecraftian nightmare known as the star-nosed mole is living in your backyard. They're weird, and we don't like weird things. How can you help, you say? Inform the sheep who live in their lives in ignorance. Say no to being touched by this creepy mole with a face anemone, and tell your friends about our little show here, so that no one has to endure the cold, unflinching nose horror stare of this otherwise completely harmless creature. Remember, these things are among us. If you see one on the street, don't approach it. Just log onto your favorite podcasting app and leave a review for Life, Death, and Taxonomy and say, "Thanks for removing the scales from my eyes." Paid for by the Foundation of Not Getting Touched by Mole Faces. Alright, so, for you out there in Podcastia, split...
For you out there in Podcastia, get out of here. Split.
Split.